today's episode, I'm chatting with the lovely Shakeeta. Shakeeta's story is a very unique one in that she was pregnant at the same time as her mom was. And so they were able to share this experience, and Shakeeta said that she felt really guided and really empowered by the fact that her mom could support her through her own journey of becoming a mom. This was a really beautiful episode where Shakeeta tells us how she never wanted to have children until she met the right one, her husband. She takes us through what having bipolar 2 looked like for her through her pregnancy and her postpartum journey as well. And Shakeeta was really honest about how her mental health was severely impacted after she had her baby girl, and how she managed to find the appropriate help that she needed, and she's now feeling a lot better. You are listening to Cuppa with a Doula. I am Alicia, exercise physiologist and doula, and every week I chat with a mum or mum-to-be about all things pregnancy, birth and postpartum. The stories you will hear in this podcast are real and sometimes raw, but they are told without any taboo. So grab yourself a cuppa, relax, put your earphones in and enjoy this episode. Hi Shakeeta, thank you for coming on the podcast.
No worries, thank you so much for having me.
So do you want to start by introducing yourself, tell the listeners your name, where you're living and who's in your family?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Shakeeta. I'm 24 and I'm on the Sunshine Coast, and I live with my husband and my little nearly 5-month-old baby.
Wow, 5 months. Amazing. Is she crawling yet?
I know. No, but we put her, when we put her on the ground, she kind of wriggles forward, and I'm like, oh, it won't be soon. It won't be too long, surely.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Surely she's already moving now.
Yeah, the start of trouble at this point, but fun times ahead.
Yeah, pretty much. Need to start baby proofing.
Yeah, that's right. You've got it sorted. It's never too early for that.
Exactly.
So, Shakeeta, did you always want to be a mum?
I actually didn't. I don't know why. I just don't like kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think because I come from a very big family. I don't have any siblings, but my grandparents had 10 kids. And so I grew up with all my cousins, a lot of them from older than me to my mum recently had a baby. So my little sister is the youngest in the family now. So I've had all ages, and I think I'm just traumatized from from the chaos that they all have. But I don't know. I don't think kids were ever something I really wanted. But then I think once I was with my husband, I think because he always wanted kids, and I always thought that it was not that it was selfish of me, but to not take into consideration what he wanted was almost wrong. But then I kind of got to the point where I was like, no, I do want to have kids with you. That's something that I want to do, even though I'm terrified of them and I have no idea what I'm going to do. That's something I want to have with you.
Yeah, right. So when you met your husband...
It was weird. It was odd.
Yeah, so at some point you meet your husband, and then you guys probably start talking about serious things, because you know that you're in a you both want to be in this relationship long term. So did you tell him that you didn't want to have kids?
Yes. I think that's always because he's seen my family and he's like, oh, okay, there's a lot of them. I'm not shocked about it. But I think it was almost like it was a joke, because there's I grew up with so many of them that it was almost funny. But then, yeah, it kind of got to a point where it was like one day I was just like, no, I want to have kids with you. I want to have kids with you. And he was like, oh, okay. Okay, well, that's great.
Wow.
And that's pretty much how it went.
Nice. Wow. That's really I think that's really interesting that you didn't want to have kids, but then I guess with the right person being your husband, it became it was different, right? And you just went, oh, actually,
Yeah.
I do want to have kids because with you it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So from the time you had this conversation about, yes, I do want to have kids, to then you falling pregnant, what time lapse was there between those 2 points?
Probably, I think we sort of started talking about it maybe like a year, 6 months to a year before I fell pregnant. It wasn't really something that we had planned.
Right.
It just happened.
Okay.
And we were kind of like, well, it's sooner than we expected,
Mm-hmm.
but we've talked about this, so it's not
Yeah.
like a shock to the system as
Mhm.
such.
Mm-hmm. Did you find out early on that you were pregnant?
I actually found out the day my period was due because I just had a really weird feeling. I had a really, really weird feeling. And so I went to my mum, and at the time my mum was pregnant with my sister.
That's amazing.
And I was like, oh my God, Mum, I think I might be pregnant as well. And she was like, oh my God, go take a test. And so by the time I had taken I'd peed on the test, by the time I'd wiped, it had come up like 2 clear as day lines. And I started crying. I was like, Mum, I don't know if I'm actually ready for this now. And she was like, we're going to have babies together.
That's amazing. So you knew your mum was pregnant, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so my mum was like 6 months pregnant.
Wow.
So now I've got a little built-in best friend for my daughter.
So wait, so there's like 8 months between your sister.
It's actually
and
7 months to the day. Yeah.
Between your sister and your daughter.
Yeah. So they were literally about a week off being in the same grade at school.
No, that's amazing. That's
and I was like,
story.
how often are you going to have your auntie in the same grade?
Oh wow, that is just wild. Wow.
Like, it was good in a sense because I kind of had someone super close to me that I could talk to about the pregnancy as well, which was really, really helpful.
Yeah, so I was going to say your mum could really like guide you and like maybe, I don't know if you went with an OB or midwife,
100%.
that she could like tell you, oh, this is my OB or this is my midwife for your sister. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So you find out you're pregnant. Obviously your mom is super happy.
Yeah.
Amazing. How was what was your husband's reaction?
Well, when I'd taken the test, I was like, oh my God. And I was kind of like, I need to take other ones because surely not. Like, it was the day my period was due. So I was like, surely not. I just had whatever. The next day we were moving furniture around. And I said to him, I was like, look, I think I need to take a pregnancy test. This is what happened. And he was like, yeah, cool, whatever. I'd taken it. I looked at it and it came up straight away, and I got a digital one that time.
Yeah.
And it came up straight away, and I was like, oh my God. And I just put it on the, I wasn't even thinking, I put it on the cabinet next to where we were walking, and as we're carrying in the couch, he looks down and he was like, oh my God. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do now. So I was like, what do we do now? Where do we go from here?
Well, see, lucky
It was
your
just
mum
kind of
was
quiet
pregnant.
for a bit too. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't think many people can say, oh, yeah, my mum was pregnant at the same time, so she could really guide me through this whole pregnancy thing. Wow.
No, I assume that's very rare.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Amazing. Wow. So what was the next step for you, like from the time that you know you're pregnant now, because any pregnancy test you take is going to come back with pregnant. What was your next step after?
Yep. I don't know, like I was just so confused because I never wanted kids. I never like even bothered to think about what I would need to do. So I was like, Mom, what am I meant to do now? She was like, you need to go to the doctor. You need to go get an appointment and you need to go for a scan. And I was like, oh, okay. So I got to the doctor and I was like, so I think I'm pregnant. And he was like, you think you're pregnant? Like, even though, like, your mum's also pregnant, you think you're pregnant? And I was like, yeah. So we have the same doctor. And he was like, wow, I've never had this before. I was like, I can't imagine you would have.
Wow. Do you know at some point you're probably going to tell, at some point you're probably going to tell your daughter this story and you're going to say, oh, and then your grandma was also pregnant with your auntie at the same time.
I know. I can't wait till my sister's old enough. I'm gonna say to her, you know what? I'm actually your mother as well. I just gave you to Mum so she could look after you. Can't wait.
She's gonna believe me. That's
I need
the
to get
worst thing about
that little sibling love in there.
That's amazing. Oh wow! So once you got all that GP scan done, how did you explore, the different options for your pregnancy, whether you wanted to go with an OB or midwife or midwifery group practice? How did you, what was available actually in for you on the sunny coast?
So they gave me a few different options, and I just went with, because I'd heard really good things about the Sunshine Coast University Hospital midwives, and my mum was obviously going through it at the same time, so my mum was having first-hand experience, and she found it to be really great. So I was like, well, I've heard really good things, why not? So I just had the university midwives, and then with my GP as well, shared care.
Nice.
And I found that was really good. Yeah, it was really, really good.
Cool, nice. Did you both have the same midwife, your mum and you?
No, I was kind of hoping we did, but we didn't.
Oh, shame.
So when my mum came in, when I had some appointments, and then when I was obviously giving birth, I was like, oh my God, I wonder if we're going to have the same lady deliver the babies. And she was like, no, I don't think we will.
Oh, that would have been so funny, right? Oh, wow. Insane. Oh, that's insane. Wow, I still can't get over it. This is such a cool story. This is so cool. I love it. Wow. So as the pregnancy is unfolding, how are you feeling about this baby that is going to come very soon with the fact that you never wanted kids? Did it start turning for you as you start feeling baby and your belly's getting bigger? Is that changing your mind, I guess?
It was, I find it hard to sort of describe. It's like I almost feel like it wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just didn't, because I never thought that it would ever happen. It kind of just didn't feel real to me. And then even, I don't think it set in until my last midwife appointment, where they said, we're going to induce you because it's gone a little too far and you have preeclampsia. We need to induce you tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. I'm going to have a baby within the week. Like that, it just, even when I felt her moving around, kicking away, and she did, I don't know. It almost felt like it was all just a dream. And I was like, I tried to explain it to my husband as well. And he was like, no, I kind of feel that. I do understand what you mean. It just feels so surreal.
Mm. Yeah, it is. And especially, I think, because it was obviously your first, even though you're buying all of the, the nursery, the clothes and all of that, and obviously you can feel her move, it probably still feels like it's, it can feel like it's dragging on, especially in that second trimester. You're like, I've got heaps of time, it's like, delivery in 3 months, yeah, sure. And then you go, she's coming now. Oh, okay, let's get ready.
I felt like the pregnancy just went on forever. Wow. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, there's a baby here.
Did you feel well in your first trimester, or did you have a lot of symptoms?
Oh, I was so bad. I have a phobia of vomiting, but I had really bad morning sickness, like all the time. So I would just sit there and feel really nauseous. I would probably have felt 1,000 times better if I did just throw up. But because I would just sit there super nauseous, I just felt awful all the time. I had really bad food aversions as well to like random foods that I loved before. Oh, so every time someone would be like, oh, let's go out for dinner, I'd be like, no, I don't want to eat. I don't want to eat.
Oh, that's so sad. Did it get better in the second trimester? Yeah, it's the worst.
Honestly, it was probably closer to the third that I started to feel like, okay. Wow. It felt like it was forever. Oh. Like literally forever. And my poor husband, he really copped it every time he would ask me something. I'd be like, don't talk to me, I feel sick. And he's like, sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's so hard. And he probably didn't understand, like when you're pregnant, you've got a lot of hormones and you're obviously not feeling well. And he just doesn't understand that. Like, how can you, describe it? You're like, I'm full of hormones right now.
Yeah. I know, I think he really did. It was a bit of a shock for him too.
It's like anything I say in pregnancy or labour cannot be held against me, okay?
No, I said that. I said it, especially labour. I was like, you can't ever bring up what I say in labour.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a universal rule. Yeah, that's well known. So did you do any birth education in your pregnancy?
I did the classes at the hospital office.
Yeah.
And it was hard because they were all online at the time. So it was hard to try and stay. I'm really bad with staying focused and doing online stuff. So after they finished, I felt like, oh my gosh, I don't remember anything that just happened. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm like, it was a lot of it was common sense, if I'm being honest. Like, simple stuff that, don't drop the baby sort of thing.
Yeah, look, that could help. Did you know what type of birth you wanted, whether you wanted a physiological birth? I know you said you were induced, but maybe in your second trimester you had a bit more of an idea of how you wanted baby girl to be born?
I always thought that I wouldn't really care. I was always just like, I would just want the baby to come out however they come out. But I think as I got closer to the end, I really started to get an idea in my head of what I wanted. And I got really disappointed. Like, I found that there was so much disappointment that I couldn't have, like, nothing went exactly the way I wanted. But at the same time, you can't expect everything to go the way, like, it's birth. Anything can happen. And I think I just had what I wanted in my head way too much. in saying that, I do think I still had a pretty good birth. I wouldn't say I had the best birth experience, but I definitely don't think it was like, I've heard some pretty traumatic experiences from people. And I think I am very lucky, but at the same time, I was a little bit heartbroken that I couldn't have it exactly the way I wanted.
Yeah, and that's valid, you know, just because you didn't experience trauma or you don't think you experienced trauma, it doesn't mean you can't be disappointed with how the birth unfolded. It's okay to grieve what you didn't get or what you wanted and you just couldn't have. That's okay to say, my birth experience was good, but it wasn't everything I wanted. That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you, so throughout the pregnancy, are you chatting with your mom about what maybe her birth plan is and what you think you want? And did that help you to navigate all of that as well?
I found it a lot easier having my mum just going through it or have gone through it, because I obviously, like, if she hadn't had a baby since she had me, so 24 years prior, like, everything has changed so much since she had me. Cool. So even she was saying she's glad that she was able to be able to help me more than what she would have been able to do, because she did just have a baby as well, which I found quite helpful, because a lot of the stuff I found so confusing, because I was just like, it's all so new, and I feel like a lot of this stuff is kind of just like expected knowledge. And I felt so dumb sometimes, because I was like, oh my gosh, is this common sense? But I don't know. I don't know what this is, or I don't know what I should want, and all that sort of stuff. And my mum was always just reassuring me, like, no, that's fine. Like, this is your first baby. Do not stress about not knowing what you want or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes some of the midwives or doctors can be very clinical in their language, so they're just throwing you medical terms and they don't really tell you what they means, and you just go, yeah, okay, but just because, you know, you don't want to think, like, make them think that, oh yeah, I don't know, or, you know, maybe I should know, but it's actually like they should tell you what it means. And, you know, you can ask questions and you can say, oh look, I'm sorry, I don't know what this means, can you explain it in, like, you know, terms that make more sense to me?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because I'm generally quite a shy person in that sort of environment, so I never really ask questions. And I'm always just like, oh, I have questions, but I don't want to ask them because I feel like I sound dumb. But then I'm like, ask the questions. Like, why would you not?
Yeah. Did you ever feel, because you were you 23 when you were pregnant?
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
It's all right. So did you
clearly I still have baby brain.
That goes on for like a long time, don't worry. Yeah. Did you ever feel like some of the doctors or midwife maybe made you think like you were too young or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. The midwives, not so much in the sense that once I started seeing them, obviously I was quite pregnant at that point. But I actually, prior to falling pregnant, I had a marina in. And I needed to get it removed because it was causing a lot of discomfort. And I had my regular doctor, obviously as a guy, he doesn't specialise in removal and all that sort of thing. So he recommended a doctor at the same surgery. I'd went to see her and she just outright refused to take it out because she was like, you're far too young to be pregnant. If you fall pregnant, you're too big size-wise to go on the pill, so I'm not going to give you the pill. Same goes for the bar. I don't know, have we had a discussion, like, when we haven't discussed getting the shot for birth control. And I was like, look, I just want it taken out. I don't want to be on birth control. Like, I'm marrying someone. It's not like it's a new relationship. I've been with, at that point, my partner for nearly 6 years. And I was like, look, I just want it taken out. And she just refused to take it out because of her opinions on younger people falling pregnant, which I'd gotten into the car afterwards and just cried. Because at that point we were sort of wanting to look at starting a family. And I had someone, like a medical professional, just refuse because of their opinion on it.
That's shocking. And like, as you said, it's their opinion. They refused because of their own opinion. And that shouldn't be a thing, because regardless of your age, if you say, I want my marina out, you've given consent, you've asked for their skills to remove the marina, they can't say no. Yeah. And if they do, then you find someone else who will do it, because it's your body, your choice. Even if you hadn't been with your partner for 6 years and you were not marrying him, if you wanted your marina out, you don't need to justify anything. It's your choice. That's your body.
Exactly.
You do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Wow. Gosh. See, that's harsh. The fact that you have to fight against that just because of your age, that's ridiculous, really.
Wow. Yeah. I never experienced anything like that. Even afterwards, like going through the pregnancy, no other doctor, midwife, anyone ever questioned anything because of my age or their opinion on anything. I was just so shocked at that experience, though. It was like I hadn't expected it.
Yeah, you probably found the one doctor who was against young pregnancies, I guess, or had... I don't know what her background was, but yeah. So then you eventually found another doctor who could take that marina out, obviously, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and when I went and saw her, I was like, is there going to be any issues? And she was like, do you want to go on birth control after taking it out? I was like, no. And she was like, cool, no problem. No questions asked.
That's how it should be. Perfect. Good. You just found the one that was very opinionated.
Yeah. Knowing my luck.
Oh, are you a lucky person?
Very.
So let's chat about mental health. So how was your mental health in your pregnancy? How did you feel about this baby coming at some point in your life, disrupting obviously your routine that you've got and expanding the family, all of that?
I think because I didn't think it was real, in a sense, that I just didn't think about it. I don't think anything had changed as far as like my mental health during my pregnancy. I think obviously being pregnant and towards the end, I got a bit snappy, but as you would when you're 36 weeks pregnant and still working. Yes. I don't think I was out of my ordinary self. I think it definitely, a lot had changed as like when I had her. I think that's when everything kind of was just like up and down, and that's what I didn't expect. My doctor did tell me they were preparing me with a lot of information on postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, just because I would absolutely almost guarantee to experience it because of just the way I am. And I think that I thought it was going to be a lot different to what I experienced. Again, obviously not knowing, and my mum never experienced that. I didn't know anyone that had experienced any postpartum anxiety or depression, so I didn't really know what to think about it. So I just kind of brushed it off, and I thought, if that happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then that's great. I am medicated though. So when I was first medicated for my bipolar, they said that it was a pregnancy and breastfeeding safe medication. They say that in loose terms because obviously they're not going to test it as such. Same goes for any kind of medication like that. But it was probably one of the better options that I could have had. So that's why he put me on it, because I did mention that I've been with my partner for a while. We want to have a family sort of thing. And he was just thinking best thing for me long term. When I was going through the pregnancy, my doctor suggested just to reduce the amount that I take, just to, obviously it's more of like a preventative thing in case anything was to affect the, if my medication was to affect the pregnancy or anything like that, just to limit how much medication I was taking, which was totally fine. Did that really gradually, and I didn't find that it, I didn't find that there was much of a difference. So that my doctor was like, great, that's perfect, that's what we want. Didn't want to completely cut it out because then it will probably kind of drift back to where I was prior to being medicated, which was more just like more depressed states, and kind of like every now and then I'd go through a bit of a manic, like get a lot of things done and have a lot of energy, and then like the next week I'll be, in a big lull again. And then I had to see another doctor to get a script repeat, and they were hesitant to give it to me because I was pregnant. So that kind of freaked me out a little bit, because I was like, oh my gosh, it mustn't be safe for pregnancy. And the doctor was like, no, like it's fine. I just usually suggest not to. And I was like, oh my God. So then that made me really anxious about what I was taking, and then I was like, should I be taking this? And then I asked my other doctor, I was like, should I decrease it again? Should I come off it? And he was like, the most important thing during your pregnancy is you, and if you are not in your best state, then it's not going to be a good experience for you. So don't worry, like do not stress. I'm not going to do anything that's going to affect you negatively. We want you to be the best that you can be, because that's what's going to set you up for the rest of the pregnancy and into the birth.
Yeah.
Which was pretty good. Honestly, I feel like my mental health was really like nice and stable, obviously aside from pregnancy hormones, but
yeah, you can't avoid those.
Not much you can do about that. Yeah. They just tag along.
Exactly. Wow. So that's really it's really interesting, because as you said, those medication for bipolar, they can't be any clinical trials, because they can't give those medication to a pregnant woman. It wouldn't pass the ethical board, basically. So they probably do retrospective studies where they get people like you who have been on medication during their pregnancy to kind of tell them how you felt and whether your baby has any malformation or anything like that, I'm guessing. That would have been scary to just not be 100% sure that it's safe. And I mean, in as much as doctors they only have as much information as what's out there, right? They can't create information. They just have to go by what's available, and in this case, it's not much. So that would have been really tricky to navigate. Wow. But I mean, as you said, it's
it didn't really I didn't really think about it until someone else brought it up, and then I was like, oh my god, I hadn't thought about this.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, that doctor is right. If you're not well, it's not going to be good for the pregnancy and for the baby. So it is you that's the most important thing, and it's also one size does not fit all. So the dosage, I guess, had to be adjusted to make it as low as possible while still being able to, keep your mental health stable, and that worked. But that dosage may not work for someone else who has the same condition. So, wow.
100%.
Wow. So then, how did you feel in the third trimester? As you're nearing birth, you're still working at 36 weeks. That's impressive. Wow.
I had to get a doctor's certificate to say I could. But I was like, I need to get all the money I can. I need to save my maternity leave for once I have the baby. Like, I needed to make sure I had everything set up. I was really anxious about not being 100% prepared. And then maternity leave, I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. I have to do it. But I felt pretty good. Like, I felt pretty good for 36 weeks pregnant and still getting truckloads of stock in and unboxing stock and all that sort of thing. But I think once I did stop working, I was like, I've got all this time. I have so much time to do nothing. And I feel like now I really took that time for granted. I feel like I should have just done a lot of things that I know that I wouldn't have had time to do now. I wish I'd like gone to the beach more by myself, or
I was going to say, so what things?
all the little things.
Wow.
Yeah, I just wish I'd done like, because I really like doing like arts and crafts and stuff like that as well. I was like, I wish I had just like painted or stuff like that where I had time where I was literally doing nothing. I was doing absolutely nothing but napping all day. I was just having long naps, which was also quite good, but...
Exactly, and that's what you needed at the time. You needed the rest, so, you know, it's good. And
100%.
So did you stop working after 36, 37 weeks?
37 weeks was when my work said that I had to. I wasn't allowed to go any further than that.
Okay.
Which, I mean, fair enough. I was very, very pregnant. Not that I do a lot for work. I really was only sitting down most of the time. But, yeah, no, I tried to work up as close as I could to my due date.
Can we just talk about that? Like, your work deciding that you can't work anymore when you obviously can? Like, it's like getting a doctor's certificate when you're 36 weeks. I don't like that idea personally, because I'm like, you can see me. I'm obviously not like ill or like, you know, walking on one leg going, oh, I'm in so much pain. So it's like, why do I need a doctor's certificate? Like, you know, it's, and then your work saying, oh,
I actually had to get one for every week. Yeah, so we had to get one. They ask you to stop working 6 weeks before your due date. And if you want to work further, you have to get one certificate every week that you want to work, which worked out fine in my case because I had a lot of doctor's appointments anyway. So at every single appointment, I was like, hey, can you give me another letter and another letter and another letter? And he was like, can I just give you one that states that you're okay? And I was like, nope, they want one for every single week.
That's painful. That's
so
painful. Wow.
It was so annoying.
Workplaces are different too, because some workplace, they kind of have that procedure, you know, like, oh, you can't work past like 6 weeks, but then if you give a letter, it's fine. But then other workplaces are like, yeah, if you show up to work and you're fine, you're well, then go do your job, you know, like there's no questions asked. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. So then from 37 weeks...
and I just kind of expected to. I don't know why, but... Oh, no, I was just going to say, because my mum worked right up, because my mum was induced 2 weeks early because of her age. And she worked right up until her due date. So I was like, I can do that. If my mum did it, I can do that too.
Too funny. Yeah, right. Wow. See, that's a shame, because you're trying to like financially just get as much money as you can, so you're not stressing about that when baby's here, and then you just stopped. Anyway, that's another topic all on its own. So
that's a whole other.
From 37 weeks until 40 plus something, you're just at home waiting. Did you try everything in the book to get baby out?
Yeah. Everything. Absolutely everything. Every time someone was like, have you tried this? I was like, yes, and I've tried it 5 times. I tried everything. And I was like, this baby is not coming out. Like, I was so sure. I was like, I think I'm going to go at 38 weeks. I think I'm going to go a little bit early. And everyone was like, oh, Yeah, I think you will too, because my belly was so big and it had dropped. Like she was engaged, like where she was supposed to be for so long, for so long. And I was like, nah, she's going to go. We're going to go. And every midwife appointment, they were like, oh, it's getting close. Like you're looking very ready. No, I got induced at 41 and 5 days. Like I don't think she was coming out.
How did you feel at 41 and 5? Wow.
I felt huge. I felt so big. It felt so heavy.
Oh.
And oh my gosh, her head just pushing on my bladder. I never want to experience that again. I was like, I don't know how women do this twice.
Oh wow. So you got induced and you probably were feeling maybe a bit relieved
Yeah.
because you're like, okay, this is now happening for real.
Well, the idea of getting induced wasn't too bad until I saw my mum get induced, because my mum had me and her partner in, obviously when she was giving birth, and she had the balloon catheter, and that traumatized me because she was in so much pain. And then when they said to me that you'll have the balloon catheter, I cried. I was like, I don't want it, I don't want it. And they were like, but you're not dilated enough to just break your waters. Like this cervix isn't ready yet, you're gonna have to have it. And I honestly thought that when I was getting induced, that I was like, when I had the balloon in overnight, I thought I was going into labor. Like I thought I was having like contractions. I was in so much pain. And I said to my husband, I was like, surely this is going to fall out because I'm in so much pain. This must be contractions. And then I ended up somehow falling asleep overnight. And then waking up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. And they took it out and they were like, cool, so you're about 4 centimeters now. I was like, oh, that's so little.
That's so good. 4 centimeters.
I was like, there's
awesome.
so far to go though. But they were like, it worked perfectly. It worked really well. And I was like, I guess that's good. I guess that's good.
Wow. So 4 centimeters. And then were you having contractions at this point?
No, it stopped. It had stopped. That's why I was like, oh my gosh, she's never coming out. And I was like, at that point, I was like, I feel like I'm going to have a C-section, because I genuinely don't think she wants to come out. Like, there's no way that she's doing this on her own terms. But they broke my waters and then started me on the drip. And oh my gosh, that started contractions all right. That got them going.
Did you have any pain relief, epidural, gas?
I was adamant on not having anything at all. I was like, I don't want anything. I want to do this. Women do it all the time. I can absolutely do this, even though I have the lowest pain threshold ever. I was like, this is going to be easy for me. Like, I've watched all the videos on breathing and all this sort of thing. And then it got to, I think, about 4 hours with the drip, and I was having contractions every minute. They were so painful. I just looked at the midwife. I was like, I want an epidural right now. Right now. And she was like, are you sure you don't want to try the gas? I was like, nope, I want an epidural right now. And she was like, okay, I'll get it sorted for you.
It's like,
and I look over and my mum's laughing at me. And then my husband's like, I thought you didn't. I was like, don't talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to feel this pain.
It's like, you don't understand. You're not pushing a baby out. You did not have an input right now.
I don't know what I expected, but that wasn't it.
I mean, I think women that have had both an induction and then a natural birth, they compared, and they can say that induction brings on stronger contractions than it would if labor happened naturally. So I think in that sense you did really, really well, because probably your contractions would have been worse than if baby girl had come on her own terms. So that's really good. And yeah. So how was the support of your mum? Was she obviously she had just gone through birth like 3 months ago or something. So how was it to have her there? Did it feel reassuring and you felt safe with her around?
It was, yeah. Yeah, it was really, really good. I absolutely wouldn't have changed it at all, and I wouldn't have expected anyone else to be there.
Yeah.
With my mum, she ended up having an emergency cesarean with my sister. So I was really scared of having a cesarean because I'm just scared in general. And she was just talking me through it. And she was like, it's okay if that happens. It's okay because everything will be okay. And she's going to be fine either way. She's going to come out. You're not going to be stressed about it because either way, she's going to be born. And I was like, okay. So she was like calming me down. And I think that was really helpful because I feel like otherwise, I don't know, I feel like it was pretty funny though because I feel like with me and my mum, we're kind of like best friends because she had me very young. So we're like, she's making me laugh all the way through, and even during my contraction, she's trying to make me laugh, which I think helped take my mind off it a little bit, which was really good because I feel like otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do it. I can't sit there and just be in pain in a room with nothing else going on.
Wow. It's so beautiful that, your mom was there. And obviously, she's your mom and you've got such a good relationship with her. So, you've got that nurturing, motherly love. But then she's also just gone through an induction. She's just gone through birth. And then she also had an emergency C-section. So she can pretty much tell you anything that could happen to you. She's pretty much got the experience for it. And she can tell you, she can walk you through the process and reassure you. It is just so good. Yeah. Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I feel like that made it a lot easier for me. It put my mind at ease a little bit more because I was like, someone close to me has just had this happen. It's not like it's happened, 6 years ago, 5 years ago. It's recent. And to me, that's reassuring in a way.
Yeah, of course. Wow. Beautiful. So then you got the epidural. Did you get instant pain relief?
The epidural I found was a bit traumatizing because when they walked in, he was like, hi, I'm the anesthesiologist trainee and I'm going to be doing your epidural today.
And you're like, come back when you finish school.
Why? I was like, oh, okay, just get it done. But they kept missing where they needed to go, so they kept hitting my bone. And I was like, oh my God, Mum, I can't do this. And because they're doing it in between contractions, so every time I'm having a contraction, I've got to tell them, and I've got to tell them when it stops, they can keep going. And I wouldn't do it again, but the pain relief, once it was in, the best thing ever.
Oh, wow.
The best thing ever.
Amazing. Did you still feel contractions?
As soon as it was, I did. I could feel that there was something there, but it wasn't it was nowhere near as bad. It was kind of like a super light period cramp. It was I knew that they were still happening, which was good because I was worried. I was also worried about with an epidural. I've had a couple of friends that have torn really bad because they couldn't feel when they were pushing. So I was like, oh my gosh, you can't feel when you push. And then I was really scared of tearing as well. So I was like, oh, what if I can't feel it? And then once I could start feeling that I was still having contractions, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. Cool. It's all good.
Amazing. So they must have dosed it just right for you because that's amazing that you could still feel contraction. And obviously when pushing came, you probably were like, yes, I'm having a contraction. Now's a great time to push.
By the time pushing came around, I'd fallen asleep because it was midnight. I think it was about 10 o'clock actually. I'd fallen asleep and I woke up at about 1:30 30, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'd fallen asleep on my side and I could completely feel one side of my body again, like one side of like my leg and stuff. And so I got the nurse in and I was like, I can feel my leg, like what happens if I go in for a C-section and I can still feel it? She was like, stop stressing about having a C-section. You're not having a C-section. And I was like, sorry, I'm just so anxious. But I was like, I'm in so much pain on my left side. And she was like, we need to roll you over so that the medication goes to that side of the body again, because it's all dripping to one side. And I was like, I did not think that that was a thing. So I've rolled over and I was like, okay, cool, it's evened out again, but I was like, I'm in so much pain. My back is hurting so bad. I started bawling my eyes out, and she was like, you're not due for another internal check for another 2 hours or so. And I was like, you need to check because I feel like I'm going to poop. I feel like my back's hurting and I feel like I'm going to poop. And she was like, oh, I think you might be ready to push. So they did a check and they were like, yep, you're 10 centimeters. Okay, let's go. I was like, oh my God, what? What? Because the check before that, I was literally 4 centimeters. I had dilated 6 centimeters within like 2 hours.
That's insane.
And I was just like, what is happening right now? And because my mum had left, because obviously she had the baby at home. So she was like, call me if anything happens overnight. So I ring her. I was like, Mom, I'm about to push. She was like, hold it in. I'm on the
way. Hold it in, yeah, because that's easy to do, obviously.
Yeah, Mum, that's fine. I'll just keep her in there. She's finally making an appearance and you want me to keep her in longer.
Exactly. Did your mum make it for the birth?
Yeah, she was having, the security wouldn't let her in. Because it was like 2:30 in the morning at that point. And she was like, my daughter's giving birth. So she eventually got in, and because they originally induced me because they thought I might have had preeclampsia, because my blood pressure was quite like super high for what it was prior, and I started swelling really bad in my legs and my feet. So because my waters had also been broken for, I think at that point, it was like 20 hours. I ended up getting an infection. So I was on antibiotics for probably about 2 hours before they checked me to push. And so they were still trying to take bloods and stuff from me. While my mum was on the way. So I was like, it's okay, like I'm not going to push her out any time right now. But they're like stabbing me left, right and centre. They couldn't get any veins, and by the time my mum comes up, they were like, forget getting a blood sample, you need to start pushing. So I've gone to press the epidural button to get more medication, and she took it off me and was like, no, you're not having any more. I was like, what's the point of it then? What's the point if I can feel the pushing?
That's wrong.
She was like, no, because you're not going to be able to feel it. I was like, this is why I got it though.
That's really wrong.
But no, honestly, by that point, I had no pain relief. It was basically like I didn't even have the epidural. My toes were a little bit numb still. That was probably the only way I still felt like there was something.
Yeah, look. Oh, wow. So then, was it straightforward for you to push her, or did it take a little bit of time, maybe some instruments involved?
It took an hour and a half to push, which I feel like it actually felt like 10 minutes of my time. Like, it didn't feel like an hour and a half at all. And she had made it out the cervix fine, and then she got right to the opening, and they were like, her head is not coming out, she is stuck there. And I was like, oh, really? And she was like, I'm going to give you 5 more pushes, and if you can't get it out, we're going to have to give you an episiotomy. And I was like, I really don't want one. I'm really scared of stitches. I don't want that. And she was like, well, if you can't push her out, we're going to have to get her out one way or another. So I thought I was pushing my absolute hardest, and I'm lucky I didn't tear though. I'm lucky because she said that it looked like it was going to tear. But no, I ended up getting a little bit of a cut, and then she came right out.
Wow, amazing.
She came right out after that.
Wow. So how was it? She was born and then you're like, you know, you're a mom. You've got your baby girl. How is that?
Yeah. It felt so surreal. Like it was so weird to me. It honestly felt like I was living in a simulation because I was like, this doesn't feel real right now. And I'm holding her and I'm like, oh my God, you're mine. I just made you.
Exactly.
How did that even happen? That's so crazy.
Wow.
Because I had an infection for so long, once my waters had broken, she ended up getting an infection as well. So I pretty much had her for about half an hour, and then they had to take her to the neonatal ward, which I was like, oh my gosh, it just felt so weird to me because I'd only really seen that happen for like a lot of complications and stuff. So I immediately thought something was really wrong. And I'm screaming at my husband, go with them, go with Athena, go with her. And he's like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on right now. And after they left, I was just kind of sitting there with mum and I was like, what has just happened? Like, this is just so crazy.
It is.
And it was just the weirdest feeling.
At least you had your mom, which is good because if, you know, it had only been your husband and, you know, you wanted him to go with Athena, then you're just in the delivery room, the birth suite, on your own with strangers, you know, doctors, midwives, and you're like, okay, this is strange. So at least you had your mum, which is good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was she in the NICU for long?
We were pretty lucky. So they only had to take her every time they wanted to administer some antibiotics or take bloods because she had a cannula in. But they cared for her for 3 days, but she was able to sleep in the little bassinet with me in my room because she was like low risk. So she was with us and they just had to take her for a couple hours for the first 3 days. I think the first like 2 days, I honestly feel like are a blur and I don't really remember too much. We were in the hospital for 4 nights, and I think the first night was fine. By the second day, we sort of realized that my milk wasn't coming through, and she really wasn't latching properly. So I started getting really anxious and really stressed that she wasn't getting enough. And I was really lucky because I had expressed so much colostrum. They laughed at me to begin with. That kind of put a little bit of relief onto me that it's okay. And I started getting really anxious about her not getting enough to eat. And then I think by day 3, I just started getting so anxious about everything. Like, we would have her in her little bassinet side thing, and I would literally just be always like looking at her because I was like, I'm so scared that something's gonna happen. And I think between the 3rd day postpartum to we came home on the 5th night, and I think until the 7th night, from the 3rd night to the 7th night, I think I had maybe about 4 hours sleep, and I felt like I was going insane. I was like, I'm not okay. Like, I was just in full breakdown mode. I was like, she's just crying so much. Like, I know she's not getting enough to eat, and that's stressing me out so much. And I was just like, I can't, like, and what's going through my head is like, oh my God, you were not made for this. Like, you're a terrible mum right now. And I actually had my mum and my auntie, where I'm very lucky because my family are super close, and they came over, and they were like, look, she's bawling her eyes out. You need to try and express as much colostrum as you can. We'll try and give it to her in a bottle. And I was like, I had none at that point. I couldn't get anything out. And I was like, that's not reassuring me that she's getting any either. And my mum was like, look, it's up to you, but what I'm going to offer is, would you like to give her a formula bottle? I can give it to her and we can stay overnight so you and Sebastian can sleep, because you both are going insane right now. And I was like, I felt so bad. I was like, no, I can't ask you to do that. And she was like, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you. But you're not going to be a good mum if you haven't slept. You haven't slept at all. And I was like, yep, okay, that's fine. Next day came around and I was like, I feel like not as crazy at that point because I wasn't so sleep deprived. Like, I didn't even think that someone could be so sleep deprived in once having a child. Like, I didn't think it was going to be, I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't think it was going to be that hard. Yeah. And I think that it really shocked me because we were having all these tiny little issues that were just kind of building up on top of each other. And I was just in full anxiety. I was like, I can't let anyone else look after her. I need to stay awake all night to watch her because I feel like something's going to happen to her. Like, even though I know nothing's going to happen, she's in her bassinet, nothing else is in the bassinet, she's in there by herself, nothing's going to happen. And I'm just sitting there the whole night and I was like, I just need to keep watching her. And I think I did that for the first maybe like 2 weeks. So I was just 100% anxious, full anxious, everything. People would try and give me advice and I just wouldn't listen because I was like, I can't do that because that doesn't fit in with what I'm doing right now. Yeah. And I was talking to my husband and he was like, look, I think it would be a really great thing if you were to talk to your doctor about seeing someone, because I think you're kind of going into a rabbit hole at the moment and it's not getting better, and I think you need to talk to someone that's also not me. Because he's, as much as he was trying to help, he was like, you're not listening to me. Like, and you're not going to listen to me because you think I'm just saying it to help because I'm your husband. And I was like, I know, that's exactly what I'm doing. And I think by the 3rd week or maybe the 4th, I was like, okay, I asked my doctor, I was like, look, I think I might have PPD and anxiety as well. And he was like, what makes you say that? And I was like, I can't sleep. I'm constantly crying because I feel like I can't do anything right because I don't know what's wrong with the baby. I don't know why she's crying. She's fed, she's changed, she's slept. Like, I don't know what else I can give her. I don't know what else to do. So I'm constantly crying. I'm a wreck all the time. Anytime my mum comes over, I just burst out into tears and she's like, you need to stay strong because your baby's going to pick up on the energy that you're putting out, and if you're constantly in this state, we need to try and get you out of it. And then once I sort of started talking to my doctor, he was like, cool, I'll give you a referral to someone that specializes in postpartum mental health. And I think that is where it kind of turned around for me, for sure, 100%.
Wow. And see, the newborn stage is really hard because, your baby cries a lot. They've just experienced a big transition. So have you and your husband, obviously. And it's really good that you seeked support, because that's, as you said, that was the one thing that really changed everything for you. And it can be really hard to identify that those anxious feelings are not normal, because that's your reality, that's what you feel, that's what you're experiencing right now. So it's good that your husband was able to verbalize it and tell you that he probably isn't the best person to help you and he doesn't have the tools. So it's better if you seek help, and that's what you did, and that's really amazing because it's a really difficult step to take. And then once you get the help you
Oh,
need, then
absolutely.
it's amazing. Wow, good on
Yeah. I was so scared about saying anything to anyone about it, because I was like, my first thought was they're just going to want to take the baby away. And I don't know why, because I've not thought anything that would, I'd never in a million years do anything. So I was like, at the same time, I was like, but they're not going to. You're just, it's all just new to you and it's just overwhelming at the moment.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't talk to anyone. I don't want to say anything in case it gets misconstrued. And it just kind of, it just kept layering and layering and layering until it got to a point where I was like, no, I can't just ignore it and hope that it goes away.
Yeah. Good. And again, good on you for seeking help, because that is what you needed, and that helped you, because as your mum said, if you're not feeling 100%, it's a lot harder for you to care for your baby girl and for you to be there with your husband as well. And so how was it after you...
Absolutely.
Yeah, how was it after you sought help? Did you get a referral to a psychologist or a psychiatrist?
My doctor wanted me to see my psychiatrist that I had seen prior to falling pregnant a couple of years ago, but he moved clinics and I wasn't sure what clinic he went to. So my doctor was like, it's really hard to get into a psychologist at the moment, but I've given you a referral and I've sent it to, it just happened to be across the road from the GP. He was like, I've sent it through, hopefully they have a cancellation or something come up, so you can get in quite soon. And then he gave me all of the Panda
amazing
contact details as well if I needed to talk to someone in the meantime. I was really fortunate that they were able to get me in pretty much the next week with someone that specializes in postpartum depression. And after that, even just the first session, I was like, I just feel like so much weight has been lifted off, because I don't feel like it's just me experiencing this. Like, I'm not the only one that feels like they're going insane, like they're a bad parent because they don't know what to do, or because it's not quite going the way that they thought. And hearing from the psychologist as well, some of the other experiences that she's dealt with other people. And she's like, you don't need to worry, because it's normal. It is so normal. It's just not spoken about.
That's right. And that's exactly something I wanted to say with, I'm sure other moms that will be listening to this will go, yes, that was me at some point. That what you've said, a lot of the things you've said about not feeling like you're doing anything right, not being able to soothe baby because they do cry a lot in that stage, feeling like there's nothing you can do, you're not a good enough parent. I've been there, I've felt that, and I felt extremely alone too. And I was like, I'm the only one ever that's experienced that. Every other mom has got it easy. Everyone's got it sorted. They know what to do. Yeah. And I'm just here and I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm doing. I've been there. And I felt those exact same things. And it's really good that you've brought up Panda, because for any listeners who's wondering, where can I get help? Maybe they can't get into their GP. There is a long wait time to get into a psychologist or a counsellor. Panda, so PANDA, is perinatal health line, and they've got, I think it's a 24/7 health line. You can call them up, and it's almost like Lifeline. Yeah. They've got trained counsellors, and they will hear you out, whether you just want to talk to someone, you want reassurance, you're not sure if what you're experiencing is normal, or you just need to talk to someone because you just need to. They will listen to you, they will help you, they will guide you. There's no judgment, and you can call anytime. So use it if you need to. It's there.
Yeah.
Amazing.
100%. 100%. And I wish I did sooner.
Yeah.
As soon as I started feeling the way that I did, I wish I got straight onto that.
Yeah, but see, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like when you're a first-time mom, you're like, well, know, this is how it's going to be for forever, right? And you don't know that it can be different. Yeah. You can seek help. Yeah, you just don't know.
And it's hard to know the difference between, like, I know a lot of people were talking about like baby blues, and I was like, is it just baby blues that I'm experiencing and it will just go away after a couple of weeks? And then it sort of got to a point where I was like, I don't think this is going to go away without help.
Yeah. Good. And I think what's also really hard is when you're in that postpartum period, the first like 6 to 8 weeks are really difficult. And if you haven't got continuity of care and you haven't got, like, for example, I had a midwife that would come in every week for the first 6 weeks, right? So at least she could see firsthand, even if I couldn't like see that things were not going well, she could see it. But not everyone gets that continuity of care. So if you don't have that, then you just don't know. And usually your first, I guess, healthcare appointment might be the needles, the 6 weeks needles. But that's 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks after baby's born. That's a long time when you've been feeling sleep deprived, you're not feeling well, you're anxious, you're not feeling good enough. It's too long. It's too long, and that's where that Panda Healthline is perfect.
100%.
Because you can say, this is how I feel, and you can say, you can ask for reassurance, you can ask if this is normal, if that's what you need, or you can just get it off your chest and then just put it out there, verbalize it, and it might actually help as well, or they can refer you as well. So that's really good. So how did you feel after you had that appointment? How did you feel in terms of, you being a mom and caring for Athena? Because you said it made a really big difference for you.
Yeah, I think I just needed reassurance that I'm not absolutely crazy out of my mind. Because I think at that point I just thought, I was like, there's something, like, I'm just not made for this. I'm not built for this, whatever I was thinking. I think once I started getting reassurance, I just became so much more relaxed. And I think that as soon as I started not being so on edge, Athena felt that too. Like, after I started relaxing, I could see that in her as well. Like, even from just trying to nurse her to go to sleep, she would fall asleep so quickly, whereas before she would just scream and cry because I was crying. So it was like we weren't helping each other. Whereas I feel like after a few sessions, we started implementing, a few tools to sort of, so that I wouldn't need so many appointments. And once I just started kind of, it's almost like I needed to ground myself in the situations where I feel like I was getting really overwhelmed and that I didn't know what to do. And try not to burst out into tears every single time. That was like a big one for me. I feel like I never cried so much over like the tiniest things. But I definitely feel like that the first 4 weeks were probably the longest 4 weeks of my life. I feel like they just went on, it just felt like it went on forever. And now that I'm looking back at it and I'm in the state that I am in now, which is just so much more relaxed and more level-headed, it's like, where is the time going? It's going so fast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're a giant baby now. Like, when did that happen? And now I'm like, I feel bad because I didn't take in the first like 4 weeks because I was so on edge. And it's like, it's crazy. It is so crazy.
Yeah, it's everything you're saying resonates so much with me. I've actually felt the exact same thing. So I'm like, yep, I remember I remember thinking that. Yes, that's right. So I'm just like taken back because I'm like, yeah, I felt the exact same things. It's so hard. The first 6 to 8 weeks, I feel, you've got a lot of hormones because obviously you've just given birth, and then you sleep deprived, which is a massive thing. And then you've got a baby that cries a lot, and obviously it's just really hard when you can't calm them down because you're like, well, I'm their mom, I should be able to do something about it, and I just can't.
Absolutely.
And it's not your fault. It's not baby's fault. It's just a really big transition for baby and also for you as a parent, and that obviously includes your husband as well, or the dad. So it's really hard. That period is really, really hard, but with the right support, with the right tools, it's a lot more bearable and it's manageable, which is good. And
absolutely.
getting sleep is massive if you can, just like your mom did for you, if she can stay overnight so you can actually sleep. That makes a world of difference once you can get, more than 4 hours of sleep, even if it's not, baby's not sleeping through the night, but you're getting 6 hours maybe, or 5 hours, and then maybe you get another like 2. That makes a world of difference. Wow.
100%.
Yeah, wow.
Absolutely.
So how are you finding motherhood now? So you're 5 months in?
I love it.
Oh, amazing.
I love it. I'm just like, she's going through all like the little fun stages now. She's starting to giggle at the most random things. But no, it's now that I'm like past the scary stage, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. She is just so funny. She cracks me up.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good to hear. So how did you find the transition was for you and Sebastian when you went from couple to parents with a child? How was that in terms of your relationship with him?
We definitely had have had conversations of like, we don't want it to change in a negative way. We don't want our relationship to change, and we don't want like both of us don't want to feel like the other one is just preoccupied with baby 24/7, because we are still a married couple. And it's still important to us to have time together and to still have conversations and to make sure we're checking in with each other like regularly. I know that last week Athena, she started daycare so I could go back to work, and she got gastro in her first week, so we had to go to the hospital, and that was just the most scary thing. And I think it was so important for us to just check in with each other, just to make sure that we're both okay. And I think that it's important not to forget that you are, if you are in a relationship in that sense, to not forget about each other. It's the baby's not the only person in the world.
That's right. Yeah, and that can be hard because obviously a baby, they require a lot of attention, and you're right. You can sometimes forget that you've got a relationship, you've got a husband, but it's hard to juggle. But as you said, it's good that you're checking in with Sebastian, and you both are making sure that you're both okay, and also potentially. Having family around probably helps with being able to get maybe some, couple time without Athena around, maybe. Or, her going to daycare might mean that you've got maybe a bit more time together, maybe, sometimes.
Sometimes. When she's not sick from daycare.
Gosh. First weekend and she gets gastro, that's a great sign.
I know. I was like, of course my baby will get sick the first week.
Oh gosh, wow. Are you returning back to work soon?
I've already gone back, so I've been back for 4 weeks now.
Amazing. Wow. How did you find it?
I still find it quite overwhelming because I feel like it's not that you don't do anything all day, but like when you have the baby, it's not relaxing, but it is relaxing in a sense. And it's like, now I'm like, I've got no time to do anything because I'm working all the time. But no, it's been good. And I feel like it's also been really good to sort of have conversations with people that also aren't parents as well. So that not everything is about the babies all the time. As much as I love her, it's like, I'm a person too. I want people to check in on me, not just the baby.
Exactly. And that's actually something I found, when you're pregnant, a lot of the questions are about, how do you feel? How are you? And all of that. And then the baby's born and it's, how is the baby? And they forget about you as a mom. You are also like, you matter.
Yeah.
I found it a bit difficult. I was like, the baby's fine. So am I. Thanks for asking.
So am I. I didn't think I'd care about it so much, and then I got to it and I'm like, I'm actually good. Thank you for asking. It's like I didn't expect it.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been
No, that's
so
okay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to get notified of when a new episode comes out, please subscribe to this show on your podcast listening platform. Also, I would really appreciate it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcast or share this episode so that other moms can find it. If you would like to tell your own pregnancy, birth, or parenting story, please head to the show notes and you will find a form there to get in touch with me. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I will be with you again next week for a new episode.